Hey guys, welcome back to Inventing a Better You. My name is Valentin, and in today's video, I'm going to do a continuation of How Good Our Bank ETF series. In my previous video, I looked at BMO, and now we're going to look at Scotiabank. So if you go on Scotiabank website and you click on their ETF section, you're going to be brought up to this page. And it looks like we have two different sort of portfolios. One is the Scotia Index Tracker ETFs, and the other one is the Scotia Strategic ETF portfolios. I took a look at the index tracker, and it looks like these were established in 2020, so there isn't much data on it. So we're going to focus on the Scotia Strategic ETF portfolios. If you click on this, brought up to this page, and it seems like they have four different ETFs that were created by them. The first one is a fixed income ETF. So this is highly focused on bonds. The second one is a Canadian equity. So that's Canadian market. Third one, US equity. That's the US market. And the last one is an international equity. So international markets. One thing to note though is that all these ETFs are composed of other ETFs. So it's not, they don't have direct companies in them. So you'll notice in the performance, it's probably going to be a little bit diluted because it's pretty much an ETF composed of many other ETFs. So the gains are very, very small. Anyways, let's jump into the web broker application that I used in the last video in order to compare these four. So I've put in all these four tickers here, and let's take a look at the performance. So for summary, as I previously mentioned, the two metrics that I want you to look at is the MER and the distribution yield. So for the MER, they're all about 0.5 to 0.7. Now, in the context of ETF, this is a bit expensive because ETFs can easily be 0.04, 0.06, and so forth. So compared to mutual funds, this is a good MER, a management expense ratio, but versus compared to other ETFs, I would say it's a bit too expensive. Now, this is how much money you would be it would come out of your account every single year holding this particular ETF. Distribution yield is how much they will pay for you, is either a monthly, quarterly, semi-annually, or annually, depending on the company. And these yields are fairly small. Even for this particular one, the first one was the fixed income ETF. So we're expecting a distribution yield that's a bit higher than this. So keep that in mind that these are very, very low, so not very significant. Yeah, so moving down for profile, we can see that these are also relatively new funds, inception of 2018. That means the data, it's going to be only 3 years old. So we can see here that the performance data, it's a bit limited. So taking a look at the fixed income ETF, the performance has been pretty poor. 1 year, 7.6. Because it's a fixed income focused on bonds, 7.6% is not bad at all, because the focus of it is that monthly gain, not in the actual increase in the share value of the fund. So this is expected. Now for the Canadian equity one, 1.2% for the past year, that is pretty disappointing. So I would not recommend something like this. Like the BMO funds that I reviewed in my previous video had much, much better performance than this. The US equity is much better. 9.18 is decent, 10%. That's very average. And international equity -2. So international equity is it's very risky. I rarely see these do really, really well in portfolios. And that's just the since inception. So if you were to have bought this fund in 2018 and held it until now without making any sort of purchases, this is what your funds would be sitting at. So 10% minus 1.39, very poor. Okay, so moving on to risk analysis for the past year. As previously mentioned, the beta and the alpha are the indicators that I want you to look at. The beta is a measurement of market volatility. If you're above 1, you're more volatile in the market. If you're beneath 1, you're less volatile in the market. And surprisingly, the fixed income ones, which are supposed to be kind of, these ones are the least fluctuating ETFs, these are more volatile in the market, and the other 3 were less. So overall, though, I would say none of these were super risky. In terms of alpha, this is a measurements of the performance compared to a benchmark index. And what that means is, for example, let's say you look at the tech industry, the benchmark index is the S&P 500, and the S&P 500 had a performance over a year. If you beat the S&P 500, the alpha usually will be positive. If you don't, it'll be negative. So in this case, for fixed income ETFs, we have a negative alpha. So this particular fund underperformed by minus 3.2% compared to the benchmark. The Canadian equity one also underperformed by minus 4.3, US underperformed by minus 6, and the last one minus 8. So what this tells me is there are funds, there are other ETFs out there that are much better who would possibly outperform, so you'd have positive values instead of negatives in here. Last but not least, the holdings allocation, as I previously mentioned, the first one, fixed income, is 98, Canadian equity one, 99%, 98% for the US, and international 97 as expected. So in conclusion, looking at these ETFs, I wasn't very pleased with the performance, at least the 1-year performance. They don't have the 3-year data yet, except for the third one. The third one was a bit decent, so that's the US equity. In terms of risk, well, it didn't seem to be very volatile, but the alpha was negative, which again, I was a bit disappointed in comparison to the benchmark index. All right, so hopefully you found this video informative. And this is just, again, for educational purposes. I'm not a licensed investment advisor. I really hope I helped you out with making a determination whether Scotiabank ETFs are right for you. All right, see you guys in the next video. Ciao.